Hello again everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another cottage living speed build in The Sims 4. I hope you guys are having the most amazing Saturday ever and thank you so much for joining me here today. So today we are building a family cottage with a watermill. If you follow me on Twitter, then you may have already seen a sneak preview of this build, and if you don't follow me on Twitter, then maybe you might want to consider doing that. I tend to put a lot of work in progress shots over on there, and it's just a really nice way for me to connect with my community in a slightly different way. So yes, we are actually making use of the terrain tool as well as the pond tool as well, and this is definitely a slightly different style for me. I never play around with terrain manipulation, but with the new pond tool, and given the fact that I wanted to make a watermill cottage, I definitely felt it was appropriate to obviously include some water in this build. Now, as you may have noticed at the beginning of the video, the watermill actually rotates, which I had no idea about until I actually entered live or live mode, however you want to pronounce it. And when I say I got a little bit emotional, that's a bit of an understatement. I know it's a bit sad, but I just thought it was such a nice touch. And you can actually grab this watermill from the debug menu in the new cottage living pack, which I thought was it's just a really nice touch. And I did use a reference image for this build. It was very loosely based on an image that I actually found on Google Images, I think this time around, and I think it was actually a painting if I'm not mistaken. I don't tend to keep the reference images on my PC, so yes, anyway, I'm really excited to show you guys what this one ends up looking like, but I'm really happy with it. And get used to me posting a lot of cottage speed builds on my channel because I'm absolutely loving and living for building cottages, and I'm not expecting that to stop anytime soon. So as you can see here, we are currently working on the exterior. I tend to go through a few different options in terms of different windows and placement of windows, and we make some changes here and there in terms of the terrain, and then we make some room for some chickens and a cow as well, which I think is really nice because actually the lot itself, I think it's a 50 by 40 lot if I am not mistaken, so it's actually quite a large lot. The house itself is 3 bedrooms and it's 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. If I'm remembering correctly, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't actually uploaded this to the gallery as of yet. Obviously, when the video goes live, it will be available on the gallery. But I got really upset actually because when I was about to upload it to the gallery, when I'd finished the build, the thumbnail that it defaults to for the gallery image, there's like 3 trees in the way, so you can't actually see the build. So what I might have to do is I might have to upload this onto a larger lot, and then you guys can obviously just place it onto the 40 by 30 lot. I'm sure it's 40 by 30. Because obviously you can place it on a larger lot, and then you guys can either place it on a larger lot or on a lot that it was built on. Anyway, so as you can see here, I'm currently working on the landscaping, and again, I went really slap happy with the landscaping, as I always do, just because, especially when there's a pond, and I feel like cottages, especially traditional cottages, are quite overgrown anyway, and so I think my landscaping style actually quite suits these builds. Because if you guys have been around for a while, or if you are new to the channel, then you may have already noticed that I absolutely love landscaping my builds. I think it just completely transforms them and makes them look so unique and really pretty. Anyway, so I think the style that I go for with my landscaping definitely works for these overgrown cottages, especially when you're trying to make it look older and like it's been here for a while, and we put vines on the outside and we just make it look a little bit run down. On the inside, we stick with a very dark colour scheme. Well, it's dark for me. I tend to lean more towards lighter wood tones and lighter colours, but with this build I decided to go for like dark wood floors and really rich wallpapers and things like that. And again, we use a lot of items from the new pack because I like seeing how they can be used in different environments and different houses, and so it's really I don't know, it's just a really good way for me to kind of work out how to make them work with items from other packs. I'm not very good at explaining things, so you'll have to bear with me with that one. And then I was like, oh, should we include this bridge? And I was like, no, it's just a bit much. Although I did like the idea, I just couldn't make it work with this particular build, but I might be able to make it work with a different one. I don't really know. And then we end up with the pond, making it look really overgrown and quite muddy and sort of mucky, really, because obviously it's an older style of house, and it's going to be a bit run down, isn't it, really, especially considering it's a watermill. I don't think there are any new builds that have a watermill on them, so this is obviously an older style of house anyway, and it's definitely different from the other two cottages that I've built, so I will link them down in the description below, and you'll also see a little tab throughout this video recommending each one of those as well. If you want to go and check those out, then you are absolutely welcome to. Those ones were actually filmed with early access of the new pack, so I was in a little bit of a rush to get all that content out, but I think we made it work. And then this one, I'm trying to work out how long this actually took me to build. I want to say about 3.5 to 4 hours, if I'm remembering correctly. I think that's probably about right. I'm going to say 4 hours all in, and then that's not including taking the screenshots and the intro, like ambiance video and things like that. So it does take quite a long time to do speed builds, so it's a timely process, but it's definitely worth it in the end. So you guys will have to let me know what you think of this build and which families, if you have downloaded it, you have moved in here. I would definitely like to play in this house, potentially with a family that I would like to create, but we'll see. I'm not much of a game player anymore, and I do talk about this a lot on the channel, and it's definitely something that I want to get back into, because before I became more of a builder, I was definitely more of a gameplay player. I used to live in the pre-made EA houses because I was like, I can't build anything, so I'll just live in these. But now, given that I can kind of build houses and things like that, it might be kind of nice to move a family in here and actually play the game for once. But anyway, so still working on the landscaping, and this does go on for quite some time because I really wanted to fill it with detail and just intricate everything. I just really wanted it to look overgrown and like it's been here for a really long time, but the family that lives here definitely takes care of it, and that's kind of the vibe that I wanted to give off. And then we end up putting I believe we end up putting a stone wall around the build, but I don't think I recorded myself doing that. If I had, I mean, this speed build's already over 30 minutes long, and that's not including the screenshots or anything like that. So I think by the time it goes up onto the channel, I think we're probably looking at like 32-33 minutes, so it's definitely one of my longer speed builds. So if you guys want to grab a drink and get comfortable, then please do so, because this is a long one. But I'll try and keep chatting as much as I can throughout, and just going through like the thought process as I was doing this build. But anyway, I really like that I use the terrain manipulation tool a little bit with this build, because again, it's something that I steer away from, although I think in the end I do end up flattening out this left hill here, because I ended up, like I said, I put some chickens and a cow shed there just because I was like, well, it looks like it's such a shame to waste all that space. And the family that lives here, I can imagine that they would have livestock, you know, cows for milk and chickens for eggs and things like that. So I thought, well, let's just try and utilize that a little bit more and actually make use of some of the space in the build. And then you'll see round back there's not any room for a garden or anything like that. Completely intentional on my part, by the way, because I suck at doing gardens of any description. I'm lucky that I managed to get the bit on the left to look half decent, to be completely honest. But as you can see here, the stone wall has already gone up, and we are currently flattening the terrain to make room for the cows, well, the cow and the chickens. So I just thought it was a really nice touch and a really nice idea. If you guys do want to play in this house, then it just gives a little bit more gameplay option. But I think we end up extending this back and then kind of half splitting it into two separate areas, so that obviously the animals have their own space, but they can also integrate if they want to, which I thought was quite a nice idea. And initially I was just going to make this just for chickens, and then I was like, no, I haven't actually done a lot that has room for a cow or a llama as of yet. So I was like, right, I need to change that. So we end up moving the chickens onto the right hand side, and then we end up extending out back there and removing that tree on the left and then putting in a cow shed, which I think is really cute. And then I ended up putting I think it was a brown cow, and I called her Mabel, and it's really weird because I didn't even play, but I was like, I just want to name this cow Mabel, which was really weird. So you'll see me here, and we end up putting a fence around the animal barn here, and then I end up integrating it. I can't remember if I did that on camera or not. There are certain things that I do off camera just because it doesn't seem that interesting to actually put in. And so I can't actually remember what I do with this. And then I realized that the cow didn't have much room and the chickens didn't have much room, and that's why we end up just half splitting it so that they can freely go through both areas, which I thought was a really nice idea. And then just adding some details with the terrain tool as well, just to make it look a little bit more lived in. And then using these bushes with the flowers on from, I believe they're from Island Living, which I thought looked really nice, and it just gives the animals a little bit more privacy, I guess. And I'm not saying it protects them from foxes, but you know, in my head, I'm like, maybe it protects them from foxes a little bit as well. So you just see me here adding some finishing touches, and you can see that I've already added the chickens and the cow. Now, if you download this house, I'm pretty sure the cows and the chickens won't come with it, so you'll have to purchase them yourselves, but I really don't think that's too much of a big deal for you guys. And then I also find it strange that we didn't get a new mailbox with this pack. Now, being from the UK myself, we don't actually have mailboxes here. In general, I'm not saying that nobody in the UK has mailboxes, I'm sure there are some people, but by default we tend to have letterboxes on the front door so that the post people just like put the post through the letterbox and it comes into your house. So I'm kind of upset that we didn't get a new door with a post box on, you know, like a letterbox, sorry. I think that was a bit of a missed opportunity, but again, you know, this expansion pack is so fleshed out, I can see why things like that would have been overlooked. And then I think it's also adding whole new animations to everything, because obviously when the mail arrives they would have to go to the door and then like pretend to put it in, so I can kind of see that, but it just would have been nice to see, I guess. So we're currently working on the back of the house, and initially I wasn't actually going to put this little extra room here, but I'm glad I did, because when we move on to the inside that actually ends up being like a dining area. So the inside's fairly open plan downstairs, but you'll see that in just a moment when we move in. And again, keeping with the dark wood tones, and the kitchen's separate, the living room is separate, but then it's got like a dining room off to the back, which again, I just thought it was a nice touch, and I think it works really, really well. So the lot is huge, I'm going to be honest. So every time I rotated the camera, I'm like, right, okay, I need to put some more detailing here. I need to do this. I need to put that in there. And so it really was quite a project, I suppose you could say. But I knew that when I found the Watermill that I definitely wanted to build a Watermill cottage like that. There was no doubt in my mind that that's what I wanted to do, so I am really, really happy with how this one came out. But if you guys do move any sim families in here, please let me know. You can tweet me or send me a message on Instagram. I say this all the time, but I love it when people message me and say, I've moved this family into this house and they're using it, and this is what I've done to it, and I've renovated it, and I've changed this and that and the other, and I just love it. And I say it every time I post a speed build, or near enough, about how much I really do appreciate you guys and your guys' support. And I just like seeing that the houses that I build you have some use for, because it's always nice to know that your work is being used. Anyway, we're gonna stop getting all sappy here. And then I went through the debug menu for some reason, because clearly there's not enough clutter going on outside. Well, there is, but I was like, okay, what else can I put in here, you know, like, let's just go for it. And then I realized that there was like a bit of the pond that looked really, really straight, and it looked really, really weird. So I was like, okay, we'll just pop down some grass and try and hide that a little bit. So that's what we end up doing with this one. And now we are onto the interior. So as you can see, the floor plan has already been made. I'm still not too comfortable with doing floor plans on camera, just because it takes me so long to do them, and then I feel really under pressure to get it right first time. And I think it took me about 4 attempts to get a floor plan that I was actually happy with, that utilized the space inside as best as I could use it. And so that's why we didn't do the floor plan for this one or any of my other speed builds. But maybe one day I'll get the courage to actually do that. So this is the living room. As you can see here, there are 2 archways leading into what will be the kitchen in just a few minutes, but I actually end up changing that. I'm pretty sure I do it off camera, and then we just end up putting up some beams and some columns to separate it instead, because I felt like the archways I don't know, they just weren't doing it for me, and they were blocking off like bits of the kitchen, and I ended up just changing it up anyway. But as I said, I'm pretty sure I do that off camera. And then I actually ended up using this rug from the Dream Home Decorator Pack, which I really didn't think would work in a build like this, such a traditional looking build, but I think we pretty much made it work, especially in this swatch. I think it looks really, really cozy, and it looks kind of like maybe it's been handmade, which is maybe why it works so well. And again, I did talk about this in my last speed build. You'll just see me every now and again going into live mode and just changing the lights to neutral instead of warm, because I feel like it looks so yellowy, and I always have to change it to the neutral one because I just think it makes it look like it brings out the true colours instead of making them look really warm toned. Anyway, it's just something that I do. I know a lot of other people do it as well, but I always have to mention it because I'm sure people will be sat there going, what's she doing there? So I always just mention it. So I did end up putting a small television from the Eco Lifestyle Pack on this little end table that came with Cottage Living, which I think looks absolutely adorable. And then this hallway table is also from the new expansion pack, which I think looks really, really cute as well. And then I ended up putting in this bookshelf from the Cats and Dogs expansion pack. I have spoken about this before in my previous Cottage Living speed builds about how well the new items integrate with the items from the Cats and Dogs pack, because that is very country-esque, or at least in my opinion is quite country-esque. So I think it just works really, really well. And then we ended up putting a kettle on the coffee table for some unknown reason. I have no idea why. And then I also spoke about this in my last couple of videos, and saying how much I'm going to use these adorable wall lights that came with Cottage Living, and I think I use them in pretty much every room in this house, if I'm not mistaken. Wow, I think I actually did. So I've stayed true to my word. That's the point of that one. So this is the dining area here. We used a dining room table from the Cats and Dogs pack, and then these new chairs from Cottage Living, which I think work really nicely together. And I absolutely love this wall clock. It looks so traditional and so classic, and I absolutely love using it in the houses. And then we end up just putting some artwork on the wall and just making it look a little bit more lived in. And this wallpaper, I don't think I've used it in this swatch as of yet, but I really, really like this green one, especially with the dark wood paneling on the bottom. I think it looks so nice. And then again, just putting some artwork on the left hand side. I switched it up a little bit, and I ended up putting, I think that's a base game mirror on there, and then obviously some flowers in the middle of the table. And then here we end up putting a cabinet from the new pack as well, because I mean, if this is, when you're doing cottages, you have to, I think, use as many items from the new pack as possible, because they're so traditional looking. And I always like seeing how again, I've talked about this at the start of the video, but how I can make them work with other items from other packs. And so I am actually planning on doing a pack restricted build, having said that. So I'm going to do probably like base game, Cottage Living and Cats and Dogs maybe, or maybe just base game and Cottage Living. I haven't really decided yet, but I do definitely need to do one. And I'm going to be doing some small cottages and some more family cottages. So for the next couple of weeks, as I've said before, you guys are going to have a lot of speed builds to watch with the new pack because I'm absolutely obsessed with building cottages. I think they look so nice. So here we've used a hallway table from Cats and Dogs, and then this armchair as well is from Cats and Dogs, and I absolutely love it in this blue checkered swatch. It's absolutely my favorite. And then we end up putting like this suitcase with a bunch of books on top, which I didn't actually realize works as a bookcase in game, so your Sims can actually pull books from there to read, which I think is a really nice touch. And now we're moving on to the kitchen. I've been doing a lot of larger kitchens in some of these cottages that I've been building very recently, which is weird because I feel like when you say cottage, people automatically think like smaller build, and that's definitely not been the case with me with my last 3 speed builds when I've done cottages. So anyway, I do need to do a small one, I absolutely do, but small builds scare me a little bit. I don't know, I think because like when you take screenshots of them, it's hard to make them look good. I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever. And then so this is the kitchen, as I said. So we end up using the very dark wooden swatch of the new counters, which I think look absolutely incredible. I tend to stay away from counters that are one solid colour, but I think these have so much detailing on them that they just look really nice. And so you'll see here we've got a little island with 2 bar stools. And we also end up putting a small dining room table with 2 chairs on, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. Just because it gives your Sims opportunity to move and sit wherever they want to sit, really, because there's so many different options in this house, which I thought was just a really nice idea. And I actually end up using the cooker and the fridge from the country kitchen kit rather than from the cottage living. I think I keep calling it country living for some reason. It's cottage living pack, because I've used the new items in my last 2 builds, so I thought it would be kind of nice to see how these items from the country kitchen kit would work, and I think they look really nice. Actually, it's been a little while since I've used these, but if you guys don't have these in your game, then you can very easily swap these out for the ones that came with cottage living, or whatever you want to do, really. So you can do pretty much whatever you want to do in this kitchen, but I just thought it was kind of a nice idea here. So we've gone for a very dark brown and like a dusky blue colour scheme in here, and you'll notice how well the fridge matches these curtains from Cats and Dogs, which I think is such a nice touch. It's such a nice feature, and I did talk about this before as well, and I love how the team have been able to sort of give us new items over the years that match so well with items from previous packs. I really like that. So they're obviously doing it on purpose. They're obviously going back and thinking, well, we're making new swatches for these new items, but how can we make them work with other items? Anyway, I'm going to stop harping on about that. And we also had to put some sunflowers in a vase, because so traditional looking, and although there are no sunflowers on this lot, I just think they look really traditional and really nice. So this is the table that we ended up talking about. That table is from Cottage Living, and the chairs are from Cats and Dogs, and it's not very often that I get to use these chairs, but in the right setting they look really nice, I think. And then we just end up putting a little armchair here for some unknown reason. It's just an extra place for your Sims to sit, isn't it, really? I don't know. Maybe when Mum and Dad are cooking, the child sim or the toddler sim can maybe sit on here and maybe watch Mum and Dad cook, which I thought was a really nice idea. And again, just adding in a bunch of clutter to make this build look as lived in as possible. And yeah, I do really like the kitchen. I really like the downstairs, and the upstairs is also, I can't wait to show you guys the upstairs, but I actually ended up cutting out footage of me doing the bathrooms, because I think including that, I think we were pushing like nearly 40 minutes, and I'm like, that's too long for a speed build. I still think like 33 minutes is far too long for a speed build, especially when I'm the one blabbering, because I'm such a rambler when I do my voiceovers. So I was like, that's definitely too long. So we ended up, the bathrooms, they're really nothing special. You haven't missed anything, I promise. So now we are working on the downstairs office. So if you don't want this to be an office, you can absolutely turn it into a 5th bedroom if you really wanted to. Maybe like a guest room or a teen room, or just a single bedroom. It just depends what you want to do. But I quite liked the idea of putting an office downstairs. But obviously, depending on what needs you have for your sim families, then you can just change this into whatever room you like, really. And I use this artwork from Cats and Dogs a lot in this build, because the swatches in it, like this one in particular, is one of my favourites with the ship on the sea. It's so calming, and the blue is such a nice powder blue. I know I'm going into way too much detail for that, but it's so nice. And then we end up putting a single armchair and a bookshelf in the corner, because I'll be honest, I had absolutely no idea what else I wanted to put in here. And then we ended up just putting some artwork on the walls and just making it look really lived in and really cluttered, basically. So I really like how this looks anyway, so I hope you guys agree. And then we end up moving onto the upstairs in I don't know, actually, in a moment, I believe. And it's really funny actually, because I end up using that like flower vase from the base game in bathrooms, and in certain situations in certain rooms I'll put it on the floor, just because I think it looks really nice. And I have to talk about this painting that just went in there from the Cats and Dogs pack. I have literally never seen that before in my entire life. I've never seen that before in my entire life, and it's so beautiful. I think I end up using it in the master bedroom upstairs, if I'm not mistaken. Do I, or do I use? Yes, I do. I use it in the master bedroom upstairs. Look how amazing that looks. And it comes in the most incredible swatches as well. So this is the hallway. I don't normally keep like footage of this in my speed builds, but for some reason I did with this one. I don't know. I'm sat here thinking, how is this speed build like over 30 minutes long? And then I'm thinking, oh, it just took me ages. It took me so long. There's so much detail that went into this build. I'm really not surprised that it took me as long as it did. And then we ended up nipping outside just because I was like, well, I found these like little planters. I think they were from Get Together. And I was like, these have to go outside somewhere. So now we're finally working on the upstairs. This is the master bedroom. It's very, again, dark woods with a neutral wall colour, and then using these curtains again from Cats and Dogs. But we end up going with like a bluey green theme in this room. I don't really know where that came from. I'm definitely on a bit of a blue kick at the moment, which, you know, that's okay. It doesn't really matter. And I did tell you that I use this upstairs. So this is one of the other swatches. I think it's like a white wolf looking out onto the sea, which I think is just absolutely incredible. It's either a wolf or just like a regular dog. I have no idea. I haven't studied it really that hard. I ended up putting a fireplace in here. Now, it was really funny because on one of the occasions my sim could light the fire no problem, and then on another occasion they couldn't, and then I tried it again and they could. So I don't know if there's like a really weird routing issue where sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I've no idea. So if it does cause you any problems, you can just remove it. It's really no big deal. But I just thought it would be a nice touch in this room to have a fireplace. So again, using this artwork from Cats and Dogs because I just really like it. And then we end up moving on to one of the single, this is like a very pinky single sim bedroom. I only used a bunk bed in one of the bedrooms, and it's not even for 2 beds. It was just for a bed and a desk underneath, if I'm remembering correctly. Just because I've used bunk beds so much over the last few speed builds that I've done, I feel like I'm overusing them now. And so I was like, I'll just put single beds in here now. And yeah, this is what we ended up with on in this one. So it's very pinky, creamy. So it's like, sorry, let me start again. So it's like pink, cream and white in this room, which I think works really well. Again, this wallpaper is from the Cottage Living Pack, which I'm in absolute love with. I just think it looks so nice, so pretty, and it's actually a really good size room, this one. It's the same size as the master bedroom, but obviously with a single bed in here it works so much better because it's not taking up as much room. So I'm really happy with how this one came out. And you might have seen before with me starting to do the bathrooms, but again, I said I removed that footage from the speed build just because it was starting to get a little bit silly with this time. I can't imagine anyone that's going to be watching this for 30 minutes, but if you do, just know that I love you. Thank you so much. So you'll just see me here like bobbing back downstairs just to grab items that I've used before that I think would look really nice in this room. And then obviously we've got a wardrobe and a desk with a computer on. And with these cottage builds, I've been using an older looking computer. I don't really know why, but like you'll notice in the living room we've used like an old style TV as well. And it's not because the family that lives here, they're not very and it's not because they're not, like, their life doesn't revolve around technology, but I feel like they've got so many more things on their mind, especially if they've got livestock and they're working full time. And you know, I can imagine this house is probably quite high maintenance in terms of upkeep and things like that. So I think technology is just the last thing on their mind. So this is one of the, well, this is the toddler room in the house, and I did say in my last speed build that I wanted to go for a woodland themed bedroom, and this is it. So that's very brown based with hints of like this sage green, which I think looks really nice. This is by far my favorite bedroom in the house. I initially thought it was the pink one, but this one, it's adorable. I love it so much. So you guys will have to let me know if you like it. I just thought it was a really nice idea because the colour palette's also really neutral as well. So you could put a baby boy or a baby girl in here. It doesn't really matter. And I think I need to do more of that in my builds because I tend to stick with a colour scheme and then like I'll revolve the whole room around it rather than... But it'll be like a colour scheme like pink and purple or blue and yellow or orange and... I don't know, orange and green. I don't know. So I think I need to do more neutral based children's rooms because actually we've got a lot of items that allow us to do that, and I don't think I do it often enough. So I know that toddlers can't use dressers, but I was thinking maybe when the toddler grows up into a child, then they may be able to utilize that. And just because it was green as well, I was like, oh, it just looks so cute. And I have talked about this before as well, but this is my new favorite what was I going to say? Plant. The plant that just went in from the cottage living pack. It's my new favourite plant. But we are pretty much wrapping things up, I believe. I think after this we move on into the last bedroom, which literally has a bunk bed and a desk underneath. So on here it takes me like 2 seconds to do. It really doesn't take me that long at all, but I will leave you guys here in peace so you don't have to listen to me ramble on anymore. But you can grab this house from the gallery. My origin ID of course is RachelPedd. Tray files as always will be linked down in the description below. You can get them for free from Sim File Share. But thank you so much again for joining me here today, everyone. You guys take care, and I will see you next time I post a speed build. Bye.